Hi, I'm your host, Dave Kemp, and this is Future Ear Radio. Each episode, we're breaking down one new thing, one cool new finding that's happening in the world of hearables, the world of voice technology. How are these worlds starting to intersect? How are these worlds starting to collide? What cool things are going to come from this intersection of technology? Without further ado, let's get on with the show. All right, so we're joined here today by Imrich Valach. Imrich, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Hi, thanks for having me today. My name is Imrich and I'm founder and CEO of Sentien. We are making the first open ear headset that you can wear all day and it doesn't block your ears.
Very cool.
And we are big in voice first as well because I think it unlocks more potential in using voice assistants and audio applications.
Yeah, nope, I would completely agree with that as well. So first off, did I pronounce your name properly? How do you say your name?
More or less. In my country, we pronounce it Imrich Valach. So
And
just so,
which country is that?
I'm from Slovakia originally, but I studied 1 year in the US, in California, and then 3 years in the Netherlands. And now we are based in Czech Republic in Prague.
Very
So
cool.
quite all over.
Okay, cool. So let's kind of go back to the start. So, you grow up in Slovakia, then what led you to come to the US for a year to study in the US?
I just wanted to learn, how are different cultures in the world, and exchange year in the US was a natural choice, and I'm very happy that I was there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And where about in the US were you living?
I was living near Sacramento,
Okay.
Sacramento area. Yeah.
Very cool. So you do a year in the U.S. and then, can you give me a little bit of a background on how Sentient, your company now, how did this thing form? Like, give me the genesis story of how this
Yeah.
whole thing came about from, it sounds like it probably started after you had this year in the U.S. So walk me through a little bit about this journey that you had.
Yeah, so it was a little bit later than the US trip. It was during the second year of the university in the Netherlands. And I was, deciding what to do with my life, actually. So I put down the largest challenges that I saw around. And one of them was human computer interaction. And I thought, we are definitely not going to give up on computers and we are going to live with them more and more. And I think they should help us out as much as they can. So I started to study history of human computer interaction and started to study computer science to really figure out what is the next step in human computer interfaces and how we can make it work best for us. And after 1 year of doing a lot of experiments, of studying anthropometry, of studying ergonomy, of talking with a lot of people from different backgrounds who were working on brain-computer interfaces or AR glasses, etc. The idea for an audio headset, for a Bone-Conduction audio headset, came to my mind because I think is the next step in making a seamless interface that we can do today. AR glasses are cool, brain-computer interfaces are cool. However, at the current stage of technology, we can't really make it available to all consumers. But what we can do is use hearing or focus on audio first, and then we can move on. So then, we experimented with a lot of different form factors, and I moved to Prague, found a co-founder whose name is Peter. He has background in cybersecurity, and he was also doing a lot of experiments with offline assistants or brain-computer interfaces. And all our conversation, all our works together led to creating Sentien Audio, which is today Sentien Audio. And now we are working on it. We've been doing a lot of prototypes, and we are now manufacturing the device, or we are into manufacturing, talking with a lot of manufacturers, suppliers, etc. And we will be shipping in summer 2020. So that's pretty much the genesis of Sentien and why we are doing what we are doing.
I love it. I thank you for walking me through all that. I think that's such an interesting story. And I love hearing sort of like the way in which all of these new entrants into the space, how they came in and what was the inspiration. And so it sounded like for you, like there was a wide variety of inspirations. It sounded like you had sort of been looking at this space to say, okay, what is that next evolution in computing? And it seems as if you landed on this idea of, something as a blend of seamless, sort of interaction into, whether it be communicating with a audio assistant, a voice assistant, or just like an
Yeah.
access point into the audio web. Is that correct? Were those kind of the two main things that you saw as being like, okay, this is a pretty transformational shift that's underway in these areas, and therefore I want to make a device that's sort of the conduit to that shift?
Yes, I mean we see audio and voice just as tools, to get
Mhm.
done what you need to, and that's pretty much embedded in everything what we do. Is that on one hand you have what you want to get done, and on the other hand you have all the tools, right? So and we are trying to minimize the time between you wanting something and having it done. So that's the first principle really that we operate with, and with in everything we do, you know. So for the audio interface, as I said, yes, I was very excited to see new developments in the area. I mean, when I was starting, just the AirPods came out, and I was quite disappointed. I thought they are going to do more. However, I think it was a very great step, because people are now used to wearing something on their heads or something in their ears, and that's very important.
Yeah, I've said it before. I think that the biggest thing AirPods did is they've sort of normalized the behavior of wearing something in and around your ears for longer periods of time.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, so to your point, I think it actually bodes really well for a company like yours and the vision that you guys have, because I think what we're seeing is like, okay, so once you get up to that like 3 or 4 hour time of the day that you're wearing something like AirPods, it certainly seems as if you reach a point, like there is probably some type of threshold where it's like, okay, I like this, I want to be sort of tethered to this like audio interface, but I don't necessarily know if I like that form factor for such an excessive amount of time, which I guess leads us directly into your device. So I think
Okay.
that the best thing to do here would be, can you kind of like really walk us through? I have an idea as to like how bone conduction works. It's
Mhm.
absolutely fascinating, but I think that a lot of listeners listening might not have never heard of this type of device. It's pretty like sci-fi, it's pretty cool. So
Yeah.
can you give us a little bit of just like a high level overview of like how bone conduction works.
Yeah. So Bone-Conduction works in a way that you have transducers or speakers that are placed on your cheekbones, and when they vibrate, they go directly in your inner ear. So they bypass your eardrum. Therefore, you can even plug your ears and you can still hear the sound. And I mean, even when you speak every day, the voice you are hearing, or your voice you are hearing, is conducted mainly through bone. So it's a very
Mhm.
natural process. And this way, it allows you to have clear, open ears. And it's almost because the main point why we chose bone conduction, or why it was a natural step, was that of course the best thing would be, you think about something and it's done,
Mhm.
and but we are not there yet, and but we are going there. But bone conduction, or a headset with bone conduction, our main aim, and that's why in everything we do, or how we design, comes from ergonomy to making it comfortable, etc. Because what we are doing is we are making almost like a wristwatch for your ears, right? So you wake up in the morning, you take your shower or whatever, and then you
Mhm.
just put on the headset and you forget about it. That's our
Yeah.
best case scenario. And we optimize for that, because what we believe is that you will get most out of the interface if it's always accessible to you. And also what you mentioned with AirPods, and I completely agree there. They are great for certain use cases. We are asking ourselves, what is the interface afterwards? Because AirPods or smart speakers, or other interfaces such as Google Assistant or Siri on your phone, I think they are just compromises for now, because the interfaces at the end of the day will be on us, accessible at all times, and not disturbing you, not taking you out of your day.
Yeah.
And Bone-Conduction is perfect technology for that, since it leaves your ears open. It's almost like a voice in your head in
Hmm.
a positive way. And so that's why it was a natural choice. And I went through many Bone-Conduction headsets because the technology is quite proven already. We are putting together many factors. And so I've been wearing a Bone-Conduction headset on me for almost 2.5 years, almost every day.
Yeah.
So I know very well what works, what doesn't work, what form factor works, what form doesn't work. So
And
I
let me
think it
just,
was a very good part on researching. And and even for the Sentien audio headset or this kind of interface, like we live it ourselves. Like we use it every
yeah.
day and we experiment with it because we are just excited about the whole. And that's why we are not just doing the headset, but we are also doing an app that you can configure the headset with. Um, as I said, we are interested in human-computer interaction. Sentient audio or this Bone-Conduction headset is just the first step that we see that we can, improve the interaction every day.
Yeah, no, I love it. And before I add my 2 cents to this whole thing, because I know that you've mentioned this to me before, but I think it would be a good point to point it out. You had mentioned that when you were first trialing the bone conduction device, that you yourself even had a little bit of hesitation on, would there be any sort of, negative side effects of wearing a Bluetooth device for as long as you did? But it sounds like you were able to sort of alleviate some of those. So can you just talk through what you
Yeah,
had, because you've done a ton of research into this.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And when I sat down, I asked myself, okay, I'm gonna wear this headset on me at all times. Maybe dangerous, I don't know. So I
Mhm.
just draw down certain factors that could affect my health, such as electromagnetic emissions or constant exposure to plastics, let's say, and all these different factors. I found research papers. European Union has a lot of great research done on electromagnetic waves and effects on our bodies. So I went through the whole 250-page report that analyzes thousands of research papers. And if there is something wrong with wearing a headset on you at all times, I think I'm gonna be the first person to know. But yes, and I took this very seriously, because uh, and that's above sentient audio as well. I think it's
Mhm.
and at sentient, as I said, human computer interaction. We ask ourselves, is it even healthy to have the devices on us at all times? Our conclusion now is that there are no effects, no negative effects. So we are pulling through. But this is the things we do. So I was also when you mentioned bone conduction technology, I was also experimenting with bone conduction microphones. You just put it on your throat and you can get input from a human side to a computer without worrying about having your microphone close to your mouth. And yeah, but that didn't go well. The sound quality is not good enough, so we dropped that. But these are the things we do. So even the form factor of sentient audio and all features it has, it's been compared with all other options, and this is the best we see that will be the next step in, let's say, audio interfaces.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I think that's great. I appreciate you really going into depth there because I know that I've heard before that there's concerns around wearing these types of Bluetooth devices for extended periods of time, and I think it's great that you've gone into so much length in your research around this, and you yourself are a guinea pig with the technology itself, and to hear that you haven't really seen or experienced any sort of side effects is definitely comforting to know. And so I think like for the listeners here, just so that you get a really good sense of this type of product, and I'll be, including images in the blog post that I do with this, and I'll be tweeting out images of this device so that you really can get a good idea of what it looks like. But it's really cool. I mean, like he said, it's sort of like a horseshoe shape. So it's going to fit. You can imagine that it's got, basically like two round circles, one for each of your cheekbones. So it will will like go around to the back of your head, to the other cheekbone, connecting the two. And like he said, the benefit of this is that you get your ears to be completely wide open. And really the crazy thing about it too is that it doesn't emit any sound. So I can be listening to music, or I can be listening to a podcast, and I could be standing a foot from somebody and they wouldn't hear a shred of what I'm listening to, because it's all done through the vibrations that are going, basically your brain is interpreting these signals that are going directly through through your bone, directly into your inner ear. So the way it works, it feels like magic, to be honest. That's the only adjective I can think to
Yeah.
describe this thing, because it's such a different type of thing than we're used to, which has, traditionally really to this point just been, facilitating this transmission through microphones and sound. So, and so one thing I want to say about this too, that I think is really interesting, about like, okay, so the why this thing I think is a really viable product and is going to become increasingly more viable. So I was just doing a little bit of research before this, looking at different internet trends, and something that I thought was really worth pointing out here for this conversation is, just back in 2016, Ben Beharin, who does, he's with, I think, Tech Pinions. It's a subscriber newsletter. He put out a report where he covers Apple really closely, and he said that at least with iPhone users, they unlock their phone. He said over 80 times, and this was back in 2016. I've seen reports recently, in the last like few years, that it's up over like 110, 120 per, the average usage. And so again, this is where I think this type of device really gets to be interesting, is that if you think about everything that you do with your phone, as if you sort of think of it all in terms of jobs to be done. Like, I love the jobs to be done framework, RIP Clayton Christensen, where it's like this idea that every single thing that's representative on your phone through the apps, those represent jobs. So like navigation, calling up your directions to get from point A to point B. The way that you would do that job within your phone is you pull out your Google Maps or your map app, you type in your destination, and then you follow along. And so I think this type of interface, and this is why I've been so bullish on just like voice first and just the voice user interface and voice assistants, is that I think what you'll see over these next, within this decade, the 2020s, is that the 110 times that you're going to unlock your phone, more and more of the reason, obviously a lot of that is just like we've become so conditioned that you just inadvertently go and you unlock your phone and you're like, what am I doing? But
Yeah.
I think that, if you think of those 110 instances or however many times you're going into your phone to perform a specific job, if you even take a quarter of those, so 25 different instances throughout the day that you don't need to go into your phone anymore, because you're able to do that with a device like a Sentien device that you're just wearing on you, and you get yourself in the habit of doing it. And again, you're just sort of progressively moving. You're not ever going to probably remove all the different reasons why you'd go into your phone. I think the phone will be totally viable for a long time, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
taking all of the different minute things that you do on a routine basis and starting to offload them to peripheral devices, offloading them to something like, it might be an Apple Watch, where you then, you do some of the things there, or you do it through something like a Sentient all day seamless device that you're generating. And for me, that's where this idea of what you're building gets really, really compelling, is that,
Yeah.
I think that it allows for people to, it finally gives them an alternative to their phone to do a lot of the things that they've become dependent on the phone to do, just not fully realizing that quite yet. They're able to do a lot of these things through something like a voice assistant.
Exactly. Yeah. And we are always on search for the best interface, and I completely agree with you there that phones are not going away. I think also Apple Watch or other smartwatch, they're essential in some other tasks, but
Mm-hmm.
exactly as you said, some tasks you can get done just with, let's say, sentient audio. You just tap on the side of your head, speak command to your Google Assistant or Siri or Amazon Alexa. Since we are platform independent, you can choose your own, and for Android, sorry, for iOS it's just Siri. And yeah, just get it done, because the point is not to take out your phone. The point is to get something done or get some notification, and yeah.
And the other thing I'll say to this too is, for the listeners out there, think about all the different jobs that exist that have hours and hours and hours of, on end of just monotonous tasks. You think of somebody that's driving a forklift, somebody that's driving a tractor. I myself have personal experience with it where I work Oak Tree Products. We have a giant warehouse that I spend a lot of my time working in, where I'm literally fulfilling orders, picking and packing things, where I have my AirPods in and I'm listening all day. Well, that breaks down when somebody has to say something to me. And so I think that, again, take that idea too, and apply it to all of the different people out there that would love to be able to passively consume content. Again, this idea that we have this burgeoning audio internet. We're seeing really the big tip of the iceberg with podcasting, but I think that it's gonna cascade into tons of different types of media that will migrate to a more native audio, like a native audio format. And I think that if you're wearing something like, if I knew that day in and day out I had 6 hours of my job that was, completely conducive to listening to podcasts or audiobooks or other ambient forms of media, but I was also able to keep my ears open in doing that.
Yeah.
Again, that's a particular type of user that's really, it's a lot of people have jobs like that. That would be really right in the wheelhouse of this too, I would think.
Yeah, exactly. And we've been, from our testing, even people who are, let's say, gardening,
Mhm.
they can call with their friends or family while they are doing their job, and it's very beneficial for them. That's just one of the examples.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's so cool, and I'm really like, I had a conversation with Pretty McGill, who was with Periphery, and again, I think this idea of like different form factors, I described it as different strokes for different folks. Like, I really do think that that as there becomes more variety out there, and more just different types of form factors, what we'll see is right now the vast majority of people, I think they're just sort of opting into AirPods. But I think that in time, you'll obviously always have a big portion of people that wear AirPods, but I think a lot of different types of alternatives will surface like yours. And I think that's a really exciting prospect for the future, because I tend to think that the more options that people have, the more inclined different types of users will get on board with this idea. And the more users, the better network effects really start to kick in on all different sides there, in terms of more incentive to create media, more incentive to, create a device that's facilitating all this. It just encourages this whole area to grow and grow. So let me ask you, as we sort of wrap up here, what does 2020 look like for you? I know that you obviously are in the midst of getting the production down and launching Sentien, but for anybody that's listening, can you give us a little bit of an idea of like what we can expect from you all, where we can learn more about Sentien, and maybe even place a pre-order for your?
Yeah. Yeah. So our pre-order is open at sentienhq.com.
Okay.
And as you said, we are now trying to get the production rolling, and we are going to be shipping in summer 2020. You can pre-order the headset today. We ship to the US and EU as of now, and yeah, it's going to be very exciting. It's a lot of hard work now trying to get the device manufactured, but we are on top of it, and I think it's going to be great over the summer. And
Yeah.
further on, for the summer, the first batch is limited, so we are just making one batch, and then later on we will do more. And then we are working on the app that you will be able to configure Sentient audio with the app. And I think that's also an edge against, let's say, AirPods or other interfaces, that Sentient audio will be fully configurable. Like it
Love
will
it.
be yours. And that's the first principle we work with all the time, is that you have to be the master of your technology.
Mhm.
We will never play ads to you or stuff like that. It has to work for you. And I completely agree that it's good to have different alternatives. but for us is that we really ask ourselves, what is the next step in those interfaces, And even myself, I was quite surprised how much more I used assistants, let's say, because I had the voice function accessible at all times, and it doesn't seem like a big difference because, okay, you can just pull up your phone, but it actually was, and our tests show that. I quite believe, and since this is a heavily voice first audience, I believe that for voice to function properly, the interface needs to be accessible at all times. You
Totally
shouldn't
agree.
you shouldn't worry about being close to your smart speaker, or your smart speaker saying something out loud that you don't want to, or plugging the earbuds in, taking them out of your pockets. I think those are all just compromises, and we are doing the next step in that. So that's why I think Sentien Audio has the edge there.
Let me just ask
We are
you.
very excited to see what's next.
I'm right there with you, man. Let me just ask you. So you're mentioning like you've been using this device yourself, and you're finding yourself using the voice assistant more and more. What are some of the things that either A, you're doing a whole lot with in terms of how you're using a voice assistant, or even B, like certain things that you didn't expect that you're now realizing like, wow, okay, this is actually pretty great to use a voice assistant for.
So my experience with the voice assistants is that they are very good for certain tasks. They are not the ultimate answer, and that's okay. What I'm now using assistants mainly for is reminders, events, some conversions, definition of words or some phenomena. And these core use cases, I think, are very strong, and they are much faster than when you would just pull out your phone and assistant is right most of the time. I think the trouble comes when you want something more complex, and the assistant doesn't do it. And then from our tests show that people are then reluctant to use it, because everything what you can do with assistant, you can do also with your phone.
Yeah.
And people usually, and myself included, just succumb back to the old ways of doing stuff. Looking at my phone, getting it done, and that's it. So we see this. It's almost a paradigm shift. It's a different thinking of how to get things done. And what helped me the most is that when we had previous prototypes that were much larger than Sentien Audio now, what helped me the most was just wake up in the morning, take my shower or whatever, and then just put it on my head. Just turn it on. Don't expect anything. And if I needed to do something done, I knew that the interface was accessible. And I think this was the aha moment. And you also asked me about last time we spoke about what was this aha moment that I had. I was thinking about more, and I think this was it. And I convinced a couple of other people to test it like that with me, and funnily they also agree, and now they're using Bone-Conduction headsets much more. So I think this was the aha moment. And as I said, voice assistants are great. They are great for certain tasks. They're not ultimate tools, and it's okay. But the problem comes that you can get the stuff done also with just taking out your phone, or I don't know, taking out your computer. So I think you just need to plunge into it, try it out, and don't get discouraged. But of course, if it doesn't work at first time, we are very reluctant to use it again. So I think it's this balance. For now, I think mainly early adopters and these people who are interested in tech will use it more. But now I think it's getting better and better, and I'm excited to see what the future brings. Even when we were speaking at CES 2020, there was Google, and some of their presentations were amazing, and I think they're making quite large leaps, especially with offline voice recognition. I think that's the most important feature. I mean, imagine you would like to type something in your phone, and if you wouldn't have no internet or low internet, like weak connection, your keyboard would disappear. I mean, it's crazy. And I think that's very similar to online only voice recognition or online only assistants. I don't think they will work or like this. I think offline is a great step, So I'm very much looking forward to that. And I think all these factors together are making up a bright future for audio and voice interfaces.
Yeah, no, well said. Really well said there. I totally agree with you. I can't personally wait to get my hands on my Sentien device. I placed a pre-order, so can't wait to try it out. I will have to do a round 2 when that time comes, so that I can give you my, the results from me playing around with it. But I totally agree. I think that, the more that this podcast has gone on, the more that I've been reading, writing, and thinking about this space, the more that I think that this marriage of hearables, but like reimagining what a hearable looks like when you're wanting to wear it all day. And I think that this is such a unique take on it that I think will really blow people's minds. I'm telling you now, if you're listening to this and you never experienced a bone conduction device, the first time that you do, you will be blown away by just how magical this thing feels. And so I absolutely love the idea of a bone conduction device that's really got, the types of first principles that you've laid out. And with this vision where you're also seeing the potential of a voice assistant on you at all times. And we know that companies like Google, companies like Apple, companies like Amazon, like these companies have the biggest pockets of anybody out there. If they want to make the future a reality, they will. And it seems as if they're putting a lot of eggs in this basket of voice assistant enabled internet. And so to be able to facilitate that, like you're doing with the product that you're building, this Sentien bone conduction device, I think is nothing short of awesome. And I cannot wait to try it all out.
Yeah. Thanks also for the pre-order, and I'm looking forward to the next conversation that we are gonna have.
Absolutely, Imrich. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, and thanks for everybody who tuned in and stayed till the end. We will chat with you next time. Cheers. Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Future Ear Radio. For more content like this, just head over to futureear.co, where you can read all the articles that I've been writing these past few years on the worlds of voice technology and hearables and how the two are beginning to intersect. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll chat with you next time.